The electrical van's engine sputtered to a stop outside the imposing Victorian house, a stark contrast to the simple apartment where Mike Anderson and his daughter, Lily, called home. Rain pelted the windshield as Mike squinted at the address scrawled on his work order, double-checking it against the ornate numbers mounted beside the grand entrance. This job couldn't have come at a better time. The final notice for Lily's school tuition had arrived yesterday, its red letters screaming urgency. "Daddy, are we going to be here long?" 7-year-old Lily peered up from her math workbook, her blonde ponytail askew from the day spent at his sister's while he completed his other jobs. "Just a couple hours, sweetie. Mrs. Peterson needs some lighting fixed before her dinner party tomorrow." Mike reached back to ruffle her hair. "You can set up at the kitchen table if they let us. You've got your books and coloring stuff, right?" Lily nodded, gathering her backpack. "And Mr. Whiskers." She hugged the threadbare stuffed cat that had been her constant companion since her mother had walked out 3 years ago. "Good girl. Remember, be polite and don't touch anything fancy," she finished with practiced precision. Mike grinned. "That's my smart girl." They dashed through the rain to the covered porch, Mike balancing his toolbox while keeping Lily's small hand in his. The door swung open before he could knock, revealing a petite woman with auburn hair pulled into an elegant twist. Her casual attire jeans and a simple cream sweater seemed at odds with the mansion behind her. "You must be the electrician," she said, her warm voice carrying a trace of an accent Mike couldn't quite place. "Mike Anderson, madam. Anderson Electrical. And this is my daughter, Lily. I apologize for bringing her, but my childcare fell through at the last minute." He shifted uncomfortably, expecting dismissal. Instead, the woman's face softened as she knelt to Lily's level. "Hello, Lily. I'm Fiona Price. It's lovely to meet you." She straightened, addressing Mike again. "Please come in. It's no trouble at all having your daughter here. The kitchen is warm and I just baked cookies." Mike blinked in surprise. Most wealthy clients barely acknowledged him, let alone offered cookies to his daughter. "That's very kind of you, Mrs. Price." "Miss," she corrected with a smile that reached her green eyes, "and it's no trouble at all." The interior of the house was even more impressive than Mike had imagined. The foyer ceiling soared 2 stories high, with a crystal chandelier catching the light in hundreds of prisms. Lily's eyes widened as she took in the grandeur, her small hand tightening in his. "The problem's in the dining room," Fiona explained, leading them through a hallway lined with artwork. "I'm hosting a charity dinner tomorrow, and half the overhead fixtures aren't working. The last electrician said it was the wiring in the ceiling, but he couldn't fix it. I'll take a look." "Usually, it's simpler than it seems." Mike set his toolbox down beside the massive mahogany dining table that could easily seat 20. "Lily, would you like to help me in the kitchen while your father works?" Fiona asked. Lily looked up at Mike questioningly. He nodded, giving her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "I'd like that," Lily said softly. As they departed, Mike caught the gentle way Fiona guided his daughter, asking her questions about school and her favorite subjects. It wasn't often that people took a genuine interest in Lily, especially clients who likely had more important things on their minds than entertaining a 7-year-old. He climbed his ladder and got to work, removing the ornate ceiling panels to access the wiring. The house was old, but someone had attempted modern upgrades without understanding the original electrical system. It was a mess of spliced wires and incorrect connections. No wonder the previous electrician had balked. 2 hours into the job, the dining room was strewn with his tools, and he'd managed to restore power to 3 of the 6 fixtures. Occasional laughter drifted from the kitchen, punctuated by Lily's excited voice. The sound warmed him more than any heater could. "How's it going?" Fiona appeared in the doorway, carrying a mug of coffee. Mike climbed down from his ladder, wiping his hands on his work pants. "Found the problem. Whoever did the last update cross-wired some circuits. I need to redo a section, but I should finish tonight." "Perfect." She handed him the mug. Black with 2 sugars, right? Lily mentioned it. Thank you. He accepted the coffee, surprised she'd bothered to ask his preference. How's she doing? Not being a bother, I hope? Fiona laughed, a melodious sound that seemed to brighten the room. She's wonderful. We made cookies, and now she's teaching me how to draw proper unicorns. Apparently, I've been doing their horns all wrong. Mike smiled. She's very particular about her unicorns. She also mentioned you read to her every night, no matter how late you work. Mike felt heat rise to his cheeks. Just trying to do right by her. Fiona studied him for a moment, something unreadable in her expression. That's admirable. Not everyone would make that effort. An awkward silence fell between them, and Mike cleared his throat. I should get back to work. Those lights won't fix themselves. Of course, she stepped back. Let me know if you need anything. As she left, Mike couldn't help but watch her go, noticing the graceful way she moved. He shook his head, refocusing on the task at hand. Women like Fiona Price didn't give men like him a second thought. She was just being kind. By 9 o'clock, Mike had restored all the lighting, rewired several problematic sections, and even fixed a flickering sconce in the hallway that Fiona hadn't mentioned, but he'd noticed on arrival. He found Fiona and Lily in the library, huddled together on a plush sofa surrounded by books. Lily was sound asleep against Fiona's side, a half-finished cup of hot chocolate on the table beside them. She tried to wait up for you, Fiona whispered, gently stroking Lily's hair. The sight struck Mike like a physical blow. It had been so long since he'd seen his daughter curled up beside a woman, looking so peaceful. Something twisted in his chest, longing, maybe, or regret for what Lily had lost when her mother left. I've finished the dining room, he said quietly, and fixed the hallway sconce too. Thank you. What do I owe you? Mike handed her the invoice, watching as she glanced at it. I gave you a discount for the cookies, he added with a small smile. Fiona matched his smile. Let me get my checkbook. Would you like to move her to the couch in my office while we settle up? It might be more comfortable than carrying her out to your van right away. Mike nodded, carefully lifting Lily into his arms. She stirred but didn't wake, nuzzling against his shoulder with complete trust. He followed Fiona to her office, a warm room with built-in bookshelves and a desk that looked antique but was clearly functional. After settling Lily on the leather sofa with a throw blanket, Mike accepted the check Fiona wrote. He noticed she'd added $50 to his quoted price. Miss Price, this is too much. It's Fiona, please, and it's not too much. You did extra work and it's late. You deserve it. She paused, seeming to debate something internally. Actually, I have more electrical work needed. The outdoor lighting for the garden and patio needs an overhaul before summer. Would you be interested? Mike blinked in surprise. Of course, I'd appreciate the business. Good. She handed him a business card. Call my office next week and we'll set something up. As Mike gathered his tools and prepared to leave, carrying a still sleeping Lily, Fiona walked them to the door. Thank you for your help tonight, Mike, and for sharing Lily with me. She's a special girl. That she is, he agreed, feeling a surge of pride. Thank you for making her feel welcome. For a moment they stood in the doorway, the rain now a gentle patter on the porch roof. Something unspoken passed between them, a connection Mike couldn't define but felt acutely. Good night, Fiona. Good night, Mike. Drive safely. As he drove home through the rain-slicked streets, Mike found himself thinking about Fiona's smile, the gentleness she'd shown Lily, and the warmth in her green eyes. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to wonder what if. 2 weeks later, Mike returned to Fiona's Victorian mansion, this time to assess the outdoor lighting project. The spring air was warm, birds singing in the elaborate gardens that surrounded the property. Daddy, can I come with you again? Lily asked as they pulled up to the house. Miss. Fiona said she has a special book to show me. Mike raised an eyebrow. When did she tell you that? Lily grinned, revealing a missing front tooth. When she called to check if I liked the cookies she sent to school. Mike was startled. Fiona had sent cookies. She called your school. No, silly. She called Aunt Jenny when I was there yesterday. She got the number from your invoice. Mike wasn't sure whether to be concerned or touched by Fiona's interest in his daughter. Before he could decide, the front door opened, and Fiona emerged, dressed in gardening clothes with a wide-brimmed hat shading her face. "You're right on time," she called, waving them over. "I was just about to tackle these rose bushes, but they're fighting back." Mike laughed, noticing the scratch on her forearm. "Looks like they're winning." "For now," she said with mock seriousness, "but I'm persistent." Lily bounded up the path, stopping just short of Fiona. "Did you really find a special book?" Fiona's face lit up. "I absolutely did. It's an illustrated copy of The Secret Garden that I had when I was your age. I thought you might like to borrow it." Lily turned to Mike, eyes pleading. "Can I, Daddy? Of course, as long as you're very careful with it." He met Fiona's gaze. "That's very thoughtful of you." "It's been sitting on my shelf for decades. Books should be read, not collected dust." She turned to Lily. "It's on the kitchen counter. Why don't you go take a look while I show your father the lighting issues?" As Lily skipped inside, Mike followed Fiona around to the spacious backyard. A stone patio led to a garden with winding paths, a small pond, and several seating areas nestled among the greenery. "This is beautiful," Mike said, genuinely impressed. "Did you design it?" Fiona nodded. "It's been my project for the past 2 years. The house was in terrible shape when I bought it for closure. Most people thought I was crazy." "Why?" she shrugged. "It needed so much work, but I saw the potential." She gestured to the garden. "I want to host evening fundraisers out here this summer, but the lighting is inadequate, and half of what exists doesn't work." For the next hour, they walked the property, discussing options for pathway lighting, accent fixtures for trees and water features, and practical security lighting. Mike took notes, occasionally brushing against Fiona as they navigated narrow garden paths. Each accidental touch sent a jolt through him that he tried to ignore. "This would be a big job," he finally said as they returned to the patio. "I'd need to bring in help." "I trust your judgment." She hesitated. "Actually, there's something else I wanted to discuss with you." Before she could continue, Lily burst through the back door, clutching the illustrated book. "Daddy, the pictures are so beautiful, and Miss Fiona wrote a note inside just for me." Mike smiled at his daughter's excitement. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Did you say thank you?" "Not yet." Lily turned to Fiona, suddenly shy. "Thank you for the book, and the cookies at Aunt Jenny's. They were super yummy." Fiona knelt to Lily's level. "You're very welcome." "I'm glad you liked them." Mike cleared his throat. "Lily, why don't you read your new book on the patio while Miss Fiona and I finish our business talk?" Once Lily was settled in a cushioned patio chair, Mike turned back to Fiona. "You were saying?" "Yes." She seemed nervous suddenly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm hosting a fundraiser next weekend for the Children's Hospital. Nothing too formal, just dinner and music in the garden, I thought. Perhaps you and Lily might like to attend, as my guests not working." Mike stared at her, caught off guard. That's very kind, but we wouldn't fit in with your usual crowd." "What makes you think I have a usual crowd?" Her expression was challenging but playful. "Well, this house, for one thing." He gestured to the mansion behind them. "Mike, I grew up in a double-wide trailer in rural Pennsylvania. My father worked at a paper mill until it closed, then picked up odd jobs to support us." Her voice softened. "I recognize the look in your eyes when you talk about Lily's school tuition. I've been there." Mike was speechless. Before he could respond, she continued. "I built a software company in my 20s that got acquired 3 years ago. This house and garden, it's all new to me too." She smiled wryly. "Half the time, I still feel like someone's going to realize I don't belong and kick me out." The revelation shifted something in Mike's perception. Looking at her now hands dirty from gardening, a smudge of soil on her cheek, he could see beyond the mansion to the woman herself. "I'd be honored to attend," he found himself saying, "and Lily would love it." Fiona's smile brightened her entire face. "Wonderful, it's next Saturday at 6, nothing fancy garden party attire." As Mike prepared to leave with his measurements and notes, Lily clutching her borrowed book, Fiona walked them to their van. "I'll email you the quote tomorrow," Mike said. For the lighting project. Perfect, and I'll send a formal invitation for the fundraiser. She hesitated, then added, I'm glad you're coming. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Mike felt the world narrow to just the two of them. Me too. The week passed in a blur of work and preparation. Mike had never attended a fundraiser and wasn't entirely sure what garden party attire meant, but a quick internet search and a trip to a department store with his sister Jenny solved that problem. You like this woman, Jenny remarked as he tried on a light blue button-down shirt. She's a client, Mike protested, but his sister just raised an eyebrow. Clients don't invite you to fancy parties or send cookies to your daughter. Mike couldn't argue with that logic. The truth was, he hadn't been able to stop thinking about Fiona, her laugh, her kindness to Lily, the way she spoke about growing up with so little. Saturday evening arrived with perfect weather, warm with a gentle breeze. Mike parked his freshly washed van a block away from Fiona's house, suddenly self-conscious about arriving in a work vehicle. Do I look pretty, Daddy? Lily twirled in her new floral dress, her hair braided with ribbons that matched Jenny's handiwork. Beautiful, sweetheart, like a princess. He straightened the collar of his shirt, fighting the urge to tug at it. It had been years since he'd dressed up for anything. They walked to the house, joining a stream of guests heading toward the backyard. Fairy lights now lined the garden path's temporary ones, Mike noted, until his permanent installation could be completed. Classical music drifted through the air, and white-clothed tables dotted the lawn. Mike felt out of place immediately. The other guests were clearly wealthy, their casual attire still screaming money in a way his department store outfit couldn't match. Lily, however, was enchanted, her eyes wide as she took in the transformed garden. Mike? Lily. Fiona appeared beside them, stunning in a simple green dress that matched her eyes. I'm so glad you made it. Thank you for inviting us, Mike managed, trying not to stare at how beautiful she looked. The garden looks amazing. I had some help. Her eyes twinkled. Though the lighting is just temporary, I'm waiting for an expert to handle that properly. Miss Fiona, your dress is so pretty, Lily exclaimed. Thank you, sweetheart, so is yours. That color is perfect on you. Fiona knelt down. Would you like to see something special? I set up a children's area with games and activities by the gazebo. Lily looked up at Mike, who nodded. Go ahead, but stay where I can see you. As Lily skipped off toward a group of children, Fiona straightened. Can I get you a drink, food, or would you like a tour of the party? A tour sounds good. I feel a bit like a fish out of water here. Fiona slipped her arm through his, a gesture that felt both natural and thrilling. Don't worry. Half these people are as uncomfortable as you are, they're just better at hiding it. For the next hour, Fiona introduced Mike to her friends and associates. To his surprise, many were down to earth and friendly. A venture capitalist turned out to be a fishing enthusiast and exchanged numbers with Mike for a future trip. A retired judge shared stories about the electrical disasters in his 100-year-old home. See, not so scary, Fiona whispered as they moved away from a group. I'm impressed, Mike admitted. You have interesting friends. I choose carefully. Her hand was still resting on his arm, warm through the fabric of his shirt. They checked on Lily, who was happily engaged in a craft project with several other children, before finding their way to a quiet corner of the garden. I should probably mingle more, Fiona said, though she made no move to leave. Host duties and all that, of course. Mike nodded, trying to ignore his disappointment. She studied his face. But I'd rather stay here with you. The air between them seemed to charge with electricity, the kind Mike couldn't fix with tools and wiring. He found himself leaning closer, drawn by something powerful and undeniable. Fiona, he began, unsure what he wanted to say. A server appeared with a tray. Miss Price. They're ready for your speech. Fiona stepped back, the moment broken. Thank you, David, I'll be right there. She turned to Mike. Duty calls. Save me a dance after, he nodded, watching as she made her way to a small stage set up near the patio. The crowd quieted as she took the microphone, her presence commanding attention without effort. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to support the Children's Hospital Oncology Wing expansion." Her voice carried across the garden, passionate and articulate. Mike listened, mesmerized, as she spoke about her personal connection to the cause a childhood friend lost to cancer, the lack of treatment options in rural communities, her commitment to changing that reality for future generations. The genuine emotion in her voice touched something deep in him. When she finished, the crowd erupted in applause. A large screen displayed the evening's fundraising total, already approaching 6 figures. Mike felt a pang, knowing his modest donation was a drop in that ocean, but Fiona had insisted it wasn't the amount that mattered. The music resumed, this time a live band playing softer melodies as darkness fell, and the garden lighting created a magical atmosphere. Mike found Lily, her face painted with butterfly designs, and led her to the dessert table for the promised cupcakes. "Daddy, I made new friends," she announced, pointing to a group of children. "Can they come to our house sometime?" Mike hesitated, thinking of their small apartment. "Maybe we could meet them at the park instead. Or they could visit my garden anytime," Fiona said, joining them. Her cheeks were flushed from her speech, her eyes bright. "If that's okay with your dad, of course." Lily beamed. "Can we, Daddy? We'll see," he said, unable to deny the hope in his daughter's eyes. "It's getting late, sweetheart. We should probably head home soon." Disappointment crossed Lily's face, but she nodded bravely. "Okay. Before you go," Fiona said, "I believe I was promised a dance." She held out her hand to Mike, his heart raced as he took it. "I'm not much of a dancer," he warned. "Neither am I," she smiled. "We can be terrible together." They moved to the edge of the designated dancing area, where other couples swayed to the music. Mike placed his hand tentatively on Fiona's waist, holding her other hand in his. They began to move, awkwardly at first, then finding a rhythm that worked for them. "Thank you for coming tonight," Fiona said softly. "It meant a lot to me. Thank you for inviting us. Lily had an amazing time. And you," he met her gaze, finding courage in the warmth there. "It's been the best night I've had in years." She moved closer, her body fitting against his as if designed for that purpose. "I have a confession to make." "What's that?" "I didn't actually need all those lights fixed that first night. The main dining room ones, yes, but the others." She bit her lip. "I may have disconnected a few myself, so you'd have to stay longer." Mike laughed, surprised. "You sabotaged your own lights." "I was desperate. You were the third electrician I'd had out and the only one who didn't talk down to me or try to overcharge me." Her expression grew more serious. "And when you arrived with Lily, the way you were with her, I just wanted to know you better." The music changed to something slower, more intimate. Around them, the garden glowed with the lights Mike had helped design, the stars visible above the open space. "I'm glad you did," he said finally. "Though as a professional, I should point out that tampering with electrical systems is dangerous." She laughed, the sound wrapping around him like a caress. "Noted, no more electrical sabotage. Good." His hand tightened slightly on her waist. "There are easier ways to get my attention. Like inviting you to fundraisers. That works, or you could just ask me to dinner." She pretended to consider this. Dinner, what a novel concept. Would tomorrow night be too soon? Mike's heart leaped. Tomorrow would be perfect. They continued dancing, conversation flowing easily between them. Mike caught glimpses of Lily watching them from the children's area, her smile wide and approving. As the evening drew to a close, most guests had departed. The staff began clearing tables while the band played their final numbers. Mike, Fiona, and Lily walked slowly toward the front of the house, Lily skipping ahead with a goodie bag from the children's activities. "I submitted the lighting proposal to your office," Mike said as they reached the front porch. "Just so you know." "I approved it this morning," Fiona replied. "My assistant will contact you Monday to schedule." They stood facing each other, the porch light casting a gentle glow over them. From the driveway, Lily called, "Daddy, I'm sleepy." Mike smiled apologetically. "I should go." "Of course." Fiona stepped closer, hesitating just a moment before leaning up to press a soft kiss to his cheek. "Thank you for tonight, Mike." His skin tingled where her lips had touched. "Good night, Fiona. I'll see you tomorrow." As he drove home, Lily already asleep in the backseat, Mike felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in years. Whatever was beginning between him and Fiona, it felt real and promising, like the start of something extraordinary. The lighting project began the following week, giving Mike a legitimate reason to visit Fiona's home regularly. Their dinner date led to another, and another, until they were seeing each other several times a week. Lily blossomed under Fiona's attention, their shared love of books creating a special bond. 3 months later, the garden lighting was complete, transforming the space into an enchanted wonderland at night. Mike and Fiona celebrated with a private dinner on the patio, Lily having a sleepover at Aunt Jenny's. "It's better than I imagined," Fiona said, gazing at the softly illuminated pathways and the subtle uplighting on the ancient oak trees. "The good lighting just enhances what was already beautiful," Mike replied, looking at her rather than the garden. She caught his gaze, her smile softening. "Charmer." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, enjoying the warm summer evening and each other's company. "I have something to tell you," Fiona said finally. "I've been offered a chance to expand my foundation's work, a partnership with a national children's health care initiative." Mike felt a flutter of concern. "That sounds amazing. Congratulations." "It would mean traveling sometimes, speaking engagements, meetings in other cities." "I understand." He tried to keep disappointment from his voice. "Your work is important." She reached across the table, taking his hand. "I turned down the travel component." "What? Why would you do that?" "Because I've spent my whole life chasing the next achievement, the next milestone. Building something meaningful, yes, but also running from the memories of never having enough." Her thumb traced patterns on his palm. "These past months with you and Lily have shown me what I really want. What matters most." Mike's heart raced. "And what's that?" "A family. A home that feels like home because of the people in it, not the things." Her eyes shimmered in the garden lights. "I love you, Mike Anderson. I love your daughter. I love the life we're starting to build together." The words he'd been afraid to say suddenly came easily. "I love you too, Fiona, more than I thought possible." Later that night, they walked the garden paths hand in hand, the lights Mike had installed guiding their way. Under the gazebo, surrounded by the gentle glow he'd created, Mike dropped to one knee. "I don't have much to offer in terms of material things," he began. Fiona shook her head, tears already forming. "I have enough things for both of us. All I want is you." "Then you have me." He pulled out a small box. "If you'll have me, Fiona Price, I promise to love you every day for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me?" Her "yes" echoed through the garden, followed by laughter and kisses and whispered promises of forever. 1 year later, they were married in that same garden, Lily serving as their flower girl and giving her official approval of her new mother. Mike's electrical business had expanded, thanks in part to connections made at Fiona's fundraisers, allowing him to hire 2 employees and spend more time with his growing family. Their honeymoon was a simple 2-week stay at a beach cottage, Fiona's insistence, where they built sandcastles with Lily and watched sunsets with their fingers intertwined. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" Fiona asked one evening as they sat on the porch of their cottage, Lily asleep inside after a day of swimming. Mike thought back to that rainy night when he'd first knocked on her door, desperate for work and worried about school tuition. "Never. But I'm thankful every day that you sabotaged those lights." She laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Best electrical disaster ever. And to think, all I was trying to do was install some lights." He kissed the top of her head. "I never expected to find my whole world." In the years that followed, their family grew with the addition of twins, a boy and girl, who inherited Fiona's auburn hair and Mike's determined spirit. The Victorian mansion transformed from a showplace to a true home, filled with children's laughter, family game nights, and the occasional electrical upgrade when Mike noticed something that could be improved. Fiona's foundation flourished, focusing on bringing healthcare and educational resources to rural communities like the one where she'd grown up. Mike's business became known for quality work and fair pricing, his reputation for integrity spreading throughout the region. But their greatest achievement remained the family they built together, not defined by wealth or status, but by love that had begun with a simple act of kindness, and a woman who saw beyond appearances to the heart of a struggling father just trying to do his best. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the children were asleep, Mike and Fiona would walk through their garden hand in hand, the lights he'd installed years ago still illuminating their path forward, a constant reminder that the brightest lights can appear in the most unexpected moments.